Oh, yeah, here we go again. Hello, and welcome into Ray on Sports. I am your host, Johnny Ray. In this podcast, we talk all things sports from my own opinion. You may agree or you may disagree, but all I do is ask that you listen. So come on in, buckle up, and let's take this ride. Okay, hello. Once again, I'm sorry, I was muted right there. Thank you guys for listening to Ray on Sports. Once again, my name is Johnny Ray, the host of Ray on Sports. Thank you guys for listening. This is my 25th episode. I'm going to start it back about, I think, 5 months ago. I didn't think I would get this far, but with God's help, thank God for you guys listening. Thank God for you guys for supporting the podcast. I appreciate it. So this week we have another great guest coming on today. I'm going to bring him in right now. His name is Mr. Nat Zeleznick. If I get it wrong, I'll go with him and he'll straighten it out for me. So here he comes. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi there, Johnny Ray. Very good. Thank you so much for having me. You were so close. The last name is Zeleznick, but I get that all the time, and sometimes I mess it up, and it's my name, so it's all good.
Okay. All right, sir. So, Mr. Zeleznick, can I just call you Nate because I don't want to keep messing up over and over and over?
Sounds good.
So Mr. Zeleznick is a true pioneer that is distinguished as one of the two American master trainers of the ancient Royal Indonesian energy and martial arts system. His masterful integration, he masterfully integrates this unique next level practice with modern scientific methodologies and technologies through his creation of the Integrated Ascension Method, which I am, and the White Dove Method. So welcome, Mr. Nate.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to a great episode for everybody who's watching and listening right now. Welcome. We're about to take the ride.
All right. There we go. See, he listens to the podcast. Like always say, well, buckle up and let's take this ride. All right. So, sir, let's for some of the stuff that I didn't go over, can you just give the audience some more information about you?
Sure, absolutely. So, for the past 25 years, I have been one of the only recognized American master trainers of a very sacred, special form of martial art. But this martial art isn't just kicking and punching and what you think of as martial arts, what most people think as martial arts, because this has a very strong internal aspect. So energy building, so internal energy or chi, biomagnetism, building production in our body for health, but also for superhuman feats. Also healing ourselves. Having a stronger electrical system helps us stay more in balance for our physical body. But then we also have, well, I'll just say the ability to enhance senses beyond our normal 5 senses that most people rely on, to the point where we can teach people how to do what some consider to be superhuman. But I just consider them future human. And so my journey started when I was about 5 years old, went to school for the first time here in northern Utah in a very small town as the only non-Mormon kid in my grade. And I found out very quickly that I was not like the other kids. And the bullying started almost immediately. And it was very powerful physical and mental and emotional bullying that was on a daily basis by groups of kids, and sometimes even the kids' parents. If you can imagine this, if you can just put yourself as an 8-year-old in scouts and having one of the scout leaders' wives tell you that you were going to burn in hell because you didn't go to their church, that's a pretty heavy deal. So I didn't feel like I had any way out. And so when I was 12, I became suicidal, and I was sitting on my dad's office floor with his loaded rifle pointed at my head. And I was really contemplating going through with this and making a very permanent decision based upon temporary feelings. And as you can tell, I didn't do that. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I couldn't do that to my mom and dad. And so I put the rifle away. And that night is when I had my very first astral projection, or my first out-of-body experience, where I got to experience what it's like to be aware and awake and for all intents and purposes alive, but not have a physical body and no limitations. And right then is when my spiritual journey really started, because I became absolutely obsessed with what's real. Like, really, what's real? It's not just this. We're way more than this. But what are we? And I kept having those experiences over and over. And at the age of 16, I started really going down the road of binaural beat technology and meditation, and looking at what the CIA was doing with remote viewing and out-of-body projection to spy on the Soviets, and basically everything I could get my hands on that had some kind of a basis in science or reproducibility. And fast forward to when I was 23, I had my life path just laid out before me in what I call a synchrodestiny. So it's not just a synchronicity, it's a synchronicity that changes your whole life from that second. And I have always been involved in martial arts, or always interested in martial arts. Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a ninja and a Jedi. So like a ninjedi, you call that. And I'd studied different martial arts and I really loved them, but they always had just the physical component. There was never a meditation. There was never energy work. There was never a alternate side to that, just the physical part. And when I saw a documentary on Indonesian martial arts that showed people who were breaking, I mean, they weren't breaking boards and bricks. They were breaking stacks of steel with their hands, bare hands, with a big smile on their face, having a great time. I thought that was pretty cool. And then I saw them do something that I honestly had a hard time believing. And that was people who were able to be blindfolded or blind and do anything that people with sight can do. And I'm talking driving cars through traffic, running through obstacle courses, reading printed material, military people who were able to shoot targets while they're blindfolded. And I was really skeptical, but at the same time, also very curious, because I'd had so many of these other experiences that I couldn't explain to anybody, but were many people had reported having them, that I'm like, you know what? Maybe Jedis are real. And I left it at that. The next day, I watched a blind woman with her dog almost get killed in front of me trying to cross the street. And I knew right then I have to find those Indonesian people and see if they can help her. I don't know why, Johnny Ray, other than I'll just call it was a spiritual epiphany. I had to find them, and I did. I found out who they were. In the early days of the internet, it took me about 2 weeks. And I brought them over here and I sponsored the very first demonstration of this art in the United States. And I got to see for myself these just badass martial artists with this amazing fitness system, but they brought blind people with them. And I got to see blind people who could literally drive my car. They could read what was on the wall. They could tell you what was on the screen of the TV, if it was on mute. I mean, they could do anything that we take for granted with our eyes. And I knew I had to follow this. And it turns out this art, which is called Merpati Putih, and I know Merpati Putih sounds funny, but in Indonesian, it means white dove. So it's this martial breath work, meditation, healing, and sensory enhancement art that is all centered around world peace. And it's all centered around humanity and the oneness of all people and all things. That I knew that this was something that I wanted to help grow in the United States. And so they had never, up until this point, in 500 years of this royal family's lineage, they had never trained a non-Indonesian person, not once. And when they saw what I was willing to do to bring this to America to help people, they allowed me to become the first. And there just so happened, another synchrodestiny, there just so happened to be a certified trainer of this art in Salt Lake City, about an hour south of me. And there were only 2 other people in the country that could train me. And they were in Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles, and then one that lived an hour's drive away. And so everything, I just marvel at how the universe and our souls and God sets everything up for us to have these amazing experiences that you could not possibly orchestrate if you tried. There would be no way. And so I started training. And a few weeks later, one of my younger brothers joined me, and together we owned and operated one of the largest martial arts and meditation academies in the country. We traveled to Indonesia numerous times for testing and training over there. We were able to prove to medicine and science and the people in the blind community and military members, all kinds of different professionals, that some people can see with their mind and they don't need their eyes, and really breaking barriers. And so when it comes down to sports, this art, Marpati Puti, this breath work, this is standard training for every branch of the Indonesian military for about 50 years now, because what it does for everything from our cardiovascular, our VO2 max, our lactate threshold, our actual focus under pressure, our ability to stay calm when we're in a fight or flight, or even for military, life or death situation, and also anti-aging and immune support that happens with this specific type of breath work. There's no wonder why they use it in the military forces, and why it's so good for athletes here and everywhere, or basically anybody who has lungs, who likes to use their body in any way, shape, or form. This is like the ultimate breathwork supplement for them.
Wow. So, that's awesome. That's awesome. Going back to it's whatever everything you're saying is awesome. It's awesome technique and everything. Going back to the and I don't know if you want to touch on the subject about the contemplating the suicide. If you want to touch on that, because I know people who've been bullied, and I know how it feels. I was one of those too. I was one of those I'll tell on myself. I was in elementary, and I went to this band class, and the guy used to always bully me. He used to always put me in the back, and they was two guys, and I never forget their names. One guy's name was Cornelius. I never forget that name, and he would put me in the back and bully me every single day. And at that time, it's like you said, it's almost like fight or flight. Am I going to continue to take this, or am I going to fight back?
It is,
and that's how it took me a while to get through it. It took me a long time to get through it. I mean, until my adult life, because when you go through something like that, I don't know if it affects you, if it affected you like that, but when people even come up against you, it takes you back to that, and it's like, oh my God, they're trying to take advantage of me, and you get nervous and you do things like that, and you try to seek help, and some people don't understand because they've never been through it. But what you're talking about right now, how does that help someone who's going through something like that?
Without a doubt. And so a couple important stats to know: that suicide is the number 2 cause of death for people between the ages of 10 and 34 in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, that's the number 2 cause of death, which is absolutely terrible because it doesn't solve anything. Your energy that has a body. So without getting too far off into the woo-woo land, energy can't be created, it can be destroyed. It can only change form, right? And our consciousness is energy, so therefore it can only change form. So so I'm going to come back to what you were talking about, because I just about went down a big rabbit hole there of quantum physics and spirituality. But when it comes down to how do we deal with these things, now kids are facing something that you and I never had, Johnny Ray. We didn't have cyberbullying. People had to be in our face, and they had to bully us or maybe crank call us, but they couldn't do it from thousands of miles away. And it wouldn't ever be, thousands of people commenting negatively about us. So things have really switched in a lot of ways that way, because it's so much easier for people to bully other people without having any repercussions come against them for doing so. They just simply log out of their account, or they move on to the next post. And so there is that I've worked with kids for the past 25 years. And a lot of them had that cyberbullying and the digital bullying happening to them a lot. And there's things in place, to help prevent that. But when you open up you let your child open themselves to the entire freaking world, that's what the internet does. Well, you're going to find out that there are a lot of people out there that you don't want your children associating with, that you have no idea that they're associating with. And so that's why it's really important that parents have a very proactive, powerful, strong, and vigilant role in their children's lives, not just in their school, but in their digital life as well, and not leave it up just to the programs that you can get to block certain websites, because there are all kinds of people out there that seek to find ways to have their websites that should be blocked go around all the blocks. Right? We have all that stuff going on. And so for me, it's very important. And I tell a lot of parents this, that it's important. It's okay for you to go through your kid's phone, just like you could go through their room. It's your property, and you need to make sure they don't understand the dangers. And as a parent, it's important that you keep them safe. And there's also ways to do that where they feel respected and they feel loved, because you're not doing it just to be nosy. You're doing it because you love them. And that's the only reason why a parent would really do it. Right? A responsible, loving parent would do that, is because they love their child and they want their child to be safe, and that they know that there are all kinds of strange and unique and not very nice predatory type of people in the world. So that's one thing that can happen as far as bullying. It doesn't have to be somebody in your own grade or in your own band class, because I was in band as well as a clarinetist. And that also had its own stigma for all the other people who were involved in athletics, right? And so this is something where I tell you what, we are all very brave souls to come to the Earth School and have this experience and go through hot and cold, love and hate, pleasure, pain, all the contrast that is the human experience. And we chose to come down here and do this. My hat's off to every single person that has ever walked the face of the planet, because we're the tough ones and the brave ones that decided we were going to come do this.
I agree. Okay, we already have a question already. One of my good friends, Arquill, is asking, what city are you located in, and do you offer classes or training in this art?
Wonderful. Is it Arquill or Arquill?
Yes.
I think it's Arquill. Okay.
Arquill. I think it's Arquill.
So Arquill, thank you so much for that question. So I'm located in Utah, in northern Utah, and I do offer classes and I do offer training in this. Mainly, I do this digitally, because instead of having people fly all the way to Utah and live with us, the way that we used to have people do that, they'd actually have to move and relocate, because we were forbidden from teaching this online up until COVID, actually. Now, I do this so that if people want to come to a webinar, I run a free webinar, a 2-day webinar every single month that teaches people breath work that they will not find anywhere else. And in combination, I've had people remark that it's the most powerful energy and breath work fitness experience they've ever experienced after decades of going to workshops and seminars. So there's that. But I also have my do it yourself at home, which is what most people like to do. My flagship program is my LEAP program, or my Life Force Energy Ascension Protocol. And this is the breath work that is used by the military, used by athletic organizations. It's used by every Marpati Putti martial artist. And it's a type of breath work that people in this country are not familiar with at all. It's not the typical type of hyperventilate till you throw up, pass out, or see God. It's not that kind. It's based on intermittent hypoxia, so specific breath holds done with certain locking of our diaphragm to create pressure through the pulmonary system, and it literally electrifies all of our cells in our body. And we can measure this with certain equipment. We can actually see the change in the joules and the amount of energy that we produce in 5 minutes or less. And so, yes, Arquill, your question is, the answer is yes. And I have numerous ways that I'll tell you about a little bit later. Thanks for the question. All
right. And he also has a follow-up question now. I can tell you about this. This is my buddy Arquill. He's like a brother to me, and he's going to ask questions because he does his research. So his second question is it a workout as well?
Yes, absolutely. So this is one of the most powerful fitness systems I've ever seen, because it has to do with hypoxia and the interchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen in a unique way. A lot of people don't know this, but oxygen can't be absorbed into your system without carbon dioxide. You have to have CO2 to utilize oxygen. But most things, like when you see, let's say, a football player off on the side and they're breathing in pure oxygen, it's been shown that doesn't actually do anything. They don't uptake any more oxygen by breathing pure oxygen. In fact, if you hyperventilate, your nervous system goes into fight or flight mode. What we do is we help people go into that homeostasis part. So if you're fight or flight over here, rest and digest over here, we help people get to that middle point when they're under stress so that your nervous system is prepared for anything, but you're not over adrenalizing yourself and breaking your system down. We do that through cardiovascular exercise, through stretching, but then this very unique breath holding hypoxic method. When people do it, if you remember the movie The Matrix, it's if a lot of people have never seen it, but I recommend everybody goes and sees it. It's an amazing documentary. It really kind of is. But at the end, Neo, the hero of the story, jumps into this agent, this computer program, blows him up from inside, and then he flexes his muscles, and you see the walls go boom, 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 like they're flexing. People, when they do the LEAP program, my LEAP program, they feel like they're actually bending the matrix. And to that point, we have worked with one of the most famous quantum physicists in the world in his lab, and we were able to show. We don't have all the data on this, but their whole team freaked out because we were trying to quantify whether with this energy we can actually bend time space. And they literally, their words were, "We're freaking out. We've never seen this before." We don't know exactly what it means. And we didn't have the opportunity to go back with a larger control study group to prove that this does exactly X, but they'd never seen it before. And you see these people on Gaia and all over the internet, and very famous. But the thing is we're very powerful beings of creation, but we are also creators, and we have this opportunity to manifest. And we've been called the martial art of manifesting numerous times over the past 25 years, because when you have a frequency that you're projecting, you're bringing that to you. And so we teach people how to manifest more, whether it's in business, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in health, whether it's in fitness, and do it reliably. And so, yes, there's physical fitness, Arquil, but there's also mental and emotional and energetic and spiritual fitness. And if we only focus on one and we neglect the other ones, there's always going to be something that breaks. And so this integrated ascension method, that's why it's integrated, is because it uses everything that we possibly can from this ancient breathwork system. But then I also bring in things like biohacking. I bring in pyramid scalar energy for meditation, which I'll actually have my own series coming up soon, my own TV series on the Pyramid Meditation channel, which goes out to about 50 million people a month. We start filming on Saturday. Things like vibroacoustic therapy, where your entire body vibrates with certain frequencies that move energy in your body and achieve different states of consciousness. I use EEG brain training so that you actually change the neural pathways in your brain. And nobody else in the world is doing this except for myself, to merge the sacred and the science together in this way. And so on every level, we seek to have that fitness, Arquil.
Wow, that's awesome. And I have the website for you. I want to make sure this is correct. IamPure.energy. Is that the website that they can go to?
I wanted to get a website when I decided to form this company that people would A, remember, and B, would actually speak truth. Okay. So yes, IamPure.energy, because yes, you are.
Okay. All right. So go there. I've been there. I've glanced at it. I've looked at it. I'm not gonna say I've read the whole thing, because there's a lot of testimonials on there that I want to read about. But from what I've read so far, it's awesome. Now, Arquil has another one for you. He said, "Would you say that there is internal healing of the body? Would you say there is internal healing of the body involved?"
Arquil, that is really the most important thing that I help people do. I'm not a healer. I don't believe healers exist. I don't, except for you, to heal your own self. And, that's the interesting thing is the people that say, I'm a healer, I will heal you. Really, the same with doctors. I think most doctors, the good ones, they will admit that they don't heal a single person. What they do is they help a person's body heal itself because our body does want to be healthy. So what this integrated ascension method does, our quote, is it allows everybody to take their own healing into their own hands. So I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you two. Using just the most basic of the breathwork exercises. When I was teaching a webinar. This is about 4 years ago. And there was a gentleman on there whose arm was up like this. And I didn't know if it was cerebral palsy, what was happening. Turns out he was choked out during a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training session and had a stroke. And so he was paralyzed on the whole left side of his body for the past 10 years. I taught this movement to them with this breath work. And at the end of this, he raised his hand on Zoom. And I was like, Sean, yes, what's going on? And he said, Nate, this is the first time I've been able to move or feel my hand in a decade. And he was moving his freaking fingers. Now, that is not necessarily typical, but neurogenesis through this breath work is definitely been done over and over. And I've seen that with many of my students and throughout the world. So there's that. Another good friend of mine, and you can see this on my website. Mm-hmm. His name is Drew Brophy. And Drew is one of the most famous big wave surfers of all time. And Drew nearly died from COVID. He was on a ventilator for 70 days. He holds the world record for being on a ventilator the longest and recovering. The last 30 days of his 70-day stint on a ventilator, he was in a medically induced coma. And when he woke up, he was paralyzed from the neck down. So he had to learn how to breathe again, walk again, everything all over again. And when I met Drew, it was 11 months after he got out of the hospital. And I taught him the same exercise I taught the other guy on that webinar. This is years later. And in 5 minutes, he started getting like misty-eyed. And I went over and I was like, Drew, what happened to you? And he said, Nate, this is the best I've been able to breathe since I got COVID. Wow. And the next day, since we were in Costa Rica, the next day, we went down to the beach. And his wife taught me how to surf, which was a lifelong dream of mine. I've crashed in every ocean I've ever been in, but to actually get up and ride the surfboard and stand up, that was a first. So I caught about 10 waves, but that wasn't the triumph of the day. The triumph of the day was the fact that Drew was able to paddle out and he was able to catch waves and surf for the first time since he got sick. And now he's back at it all over the world, from Indonesia to Panama to California, everywhere. That's what he does, is he travels the world and surfs. And on my website, you'll see he accredits this to helping him get his lung capacity back instantly. So yes, wow. That's just a couple examples. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on mentally, for people that have, say, PTSD, anxiety, or depression, this system can be miraculous for them. It can be miraculous for them.
Wow. Yeah. This is Mr. Nate on Ray on Sports. I told you on my podcast, I'm not just doing scores and the score of the day or whatever that is on the NFL. I'm getting deep. I'm trying to help people get on with their lives. Some of these things that are coming out people don't know about, but having you on here, it's opening eyes to people, and I get reviews back from people saying I appreciate your podcast. I appreciate you bringing this guy on. I know I'm getting back feedback from everybody who actually listens to it that says your podcast is unique because it's called Ray on Sports, but you go deeper than that. You go into meditation, you go into healing, spiritual healing, and things of that nature, and touching subjects that most people don't touch. Right. So I appreciate you, Nick, for being on here. I appreciate for you sharing your story. Because I know it's helping somebody out there. I can tell you right now, I know it's helping somebody out there. Arco has another one for you. Depression is a big issue for many people today.
Yeah.
Which is true.
Yeah,
yes,
it really is. And so, Arco, here's an interesting thing about depression. There are a couple different things that we can do. First of all is exercise. So this is something that everybody out there, I hope that you just go to YouTube and type in these two words, hope molecules. Hope molecules. Type that in and see what you find. So we've known for a long time, right? If you have depression, then work out, exercise, move your body. This thing's meant to be used. Do it. But now we're starting to understand more that the muscles are like an endocrine organ. So when you flex them, you actually produce what scientists call hope molecules, which is like an antidepressant like a pharmacy of antidepressant molecules that go into your body when you flex and use your body. But, one of the things, Arquill, that in our day and age, first of all, we're the laziest we've ever been. There are more people sitting at desk jobs doing nothing. We don't walk. I mean, we do everything we can not to exercise as a society. I mean, just overall, right? Personally, I love to use my body. I'm like, I'm going to wear this thing out, but not everybody does. And the thing is that the worse it gets, until somebody starts getting onto a fitness regimen, and then the better it gets, and they start feeling that positivity, that hope, because they're using their hope molecules in their benefit. So there's that. The second thing about that is that we live in the most toxic time in human history. Our food, our air, our water, our own thoughts, creating the hormones of stress like oxytocin. Sorry, not oxytocin. That's one of the good ones. Cortisol, that breaks our body down and causes disease. The CDC website says over 90% of all disease is caused by stress. And I've talked to many, many doctors who say, no, they're wrong. It's 100% of disease is caused by stress. Every day you're fighting off billions of pathogens just fine. What is it that makes that one be able to take hold? And then boom, it's when you depress your immune system, especially through your thoughts, through improper, or I should say, the American diet, which we have so many chemicals that go in and they do all kinds of nasty things to our body that we're not even aware of and they haven't even tested, but they could put it in there. Our air, where they're burning medical waste, and dioxin is one of the biggest things that has caused the endometriosis epidemic for women, because it's in how do you get away from it? It's in the air. The forever chemicals in our water, where you've got antipsychotics, antidepressants, you have birth control pills that are, the particulars are too small that they can't be filtered out. So you're drinking these through the water supply. So our bodies and our minds are being bombarded by all these different things at all times. It's no wonder we're freaking depressed, because our body wants so much to be healthy, but it is fighting this battle thousands of times a second, I'm sure more. And it's just amazing. I love our bodies. I love how we have this amazing adaptable thing that can go through so much and still be there for us. And our heart, it beats thousands of times a day. Wow. And it never lets you down, not once, until it does. Wow. But, air's not bad. Water's not bad. Food's not bad. No, it really isn't. Clean air is good. Clean water is good. Clean food is good. And so there's that. We have air purifiers. We do have water purifiers where, depending on what you get, you can get some of those forever chemicals out with the right kind of water filters. And your food, trying to eat organic, trying to stay away from packaged and ultra processed foods. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Are you getting a call? Oh, no,
it is you.
I'm sorry.
You.
That was bizarre. Okay. Just and I had everything muted and it came through the computer. So that was supposed to be there. That's so it's interesting though that you mentioned that, because that's my friend Kyle Boyd, who has a website and a YouTube channel about heart-brain coherence and the lowering of stress. That's pretty interesting that he's the one who's calling. I've never actually talked to the man. I just became his friend a couple days ago. But right as we're talking about depression and stress, comes on the guy who's specialist in depression and stress. Calls me. Interesting. Those are the synchronicities I'm talking about, right? You can't make this stuff up.
Right.
The thing is that I don't necessarily. I think that a lot of people who have a depression issue it's not always about their brain. It's not always about their chemicals. A lot of the time, it's about their ability to become and stay present. So I have a gift for anybody out there. On my website, you can go and get this gift, and it is a gift of energetic and mental shielding that helps us stay sovereign in a situation where we're not getting bombarded by other people's energies. But it also has a breath lesson on what is known as the perfect breath, which is, like, scientifically, we understand that if we inhale for 5.5 seconds and exhale for 5.5 seconds, it calms our nervous system down almost immediately. So we're focusing on our breath and we're breathing so deeply all the way in and all the way out. Then what happens is we're able to come into pure presence right here, right now. And when we do that, it's very hard to be depressed because you're not thinking about anything you regret in the past or anything that you're afraid of in the future. You're right here, right now. And when that happens, that's when we have the opportunity to allow what my favorite feeling is, and that's reverence. So it's not just appreciation. It's reverence, where everything, no matter good or bad, hard, soft, whatever it is divine, it's perfect, and it's a blessing to be able to experience it no matter what. When you do that, it's really hard to be depressed.
That's true. That's very true, sir. That is very true. It's very hard to repress when you can find, and I can say it like this, when you can find the good in everything instead of the bad and everything, because I think a lot of depression comes from people thinking that I'm at my lowest point. I can't get out of this. But when me personally, and I know it's a lot of people that think the same way, when I get to that point, I think about it, I say, well, it could be worse. There's other people that has it worse off than me. I'm complete. I spoke about this, and if you don't know, I'm also a pastor as well, or assistant pastor as well. I spoke on this and says that when you say you complain about it being too cold in your house, there's people that don't even have a house to go to.
That's right.
Because depression can start from that. Depression can start from anything. My car is not running well, but there's somebody who doesn't have a car who's trying to get around, and you're worried about your car not running well. So those factors, those things like that, like I said, pull the good out of everything you see. Yeah, it's not the best, but I'm making it. Yeah, I'm not doing the best. Yeah, but I'm still breathing. Yes, I'm not where I think I should be, but I'm still here. How do you feel about that?
Without a doubt, and there is that ability to compare and say, well, it could be worse. And sure, it can always be worse. Buddha, a lot of people credit him with having a saying that desire is the root of suffering, but that's not the translation. That's actually not what he said. What he said was craving is the root of suffering. So that's an unnatural, unhealthy desire for something where you're craving something, you can't stop thinking about it. And if we start comparing our lives to, say, somebody else, like I wish I had Bill Gates's money. Okay, pretty much everybody wishes they had Bill Gates's money. But if you say I'm unhappy because I don't have that amount of money, well, you can either do one or two things. You can three things. You can go in a downward spiral because you're not where you want to be. You could stay exactly where you're at and not do anything about that, or you can actually get off your butt and go and start doing something and working toward that goal. That said, when we start to, just like I said, become truly present, and we understand that we're here and we have 5 things, and these are 5 things that no matter what, I've never found one person that can argue with this, no matter their faith or if they're atheist, doesn't matter. Everybody agrees on these 5 things. The first one is you exist. Yep, you exist. Second one, you're having experiences. You're having an experience. Second one, it's ongoing. You just keep having more experiences. Fourth one, you can't shut it off. Even if your body dies, we're still energy. We're still going to be having that experience, whatever that is. And number 5, everything in the universe changes except for the first 4 things. Right? So you exist, You're having an experience, it's ongoing, you can't shut it off, and everything else changes. And so here in Utah, we have an interesting saying that if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change. So we don't, a lot of times, we don't put away our winter clothes or our summer clothes. We kind of keep some, because guess what? It's coming back. It can literally be 90 degrees at my house and then 35 that night. I've seen it.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Wow.
But the thing is that everything changes. But for me to recognize, you know what? I exist. I took this breath. That was my experience. I had that breath, and I'm so grateful that I got another one, because about 150,000 people every day don't wake up. They're done. This is their end of their life. And about half of them didn't even know it was coming. So when I get to do that, it's always #winning for me. And then when I understand I'm having experiences, they're ongoing, I can't shut them off, I get to understand my empowerment, because I get to ask myself a very important question. What do I prefer now? What do I want to experience in this moment? Do I want to continue feeling this way? If I do, well, then I'm going to feel this way deeply. Do I want to feel another way? Do I want to then take another action to create another result and be manifesting in a different way in my life? We are just amazing, infinite, unlimited, eternal, creative beings, but we see ourselves as so limited. And when we step out of that and realize, okay, I get a chance, I get the opportunity to choose. What do I prefer to experience? What do I want? Okay, let's work toward that. And Rome wasn't built in a day, and you won't get Bill Gates' wealth in a day. But the cool thing is somebody like that has proved it's possible. You know, so once we use that as our inspiration rather than our depression, we can change our lives quite quickly.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. That is awesome. This is Nate. I don't say the last name because I don't want to get it wrong. Zeleznick.
Yep, you got it.
So I appreciate you being on here, sir. You know, there's valuable information that you've given out to people today. I would love to have you back on here. Love to have you back on here for more. Love to have you back. Just remember to go to his website is iampure.energy.com, and there's testimonials on there. There's I think he said about the free gift. I was going to click on the free gift, but I want to talk to him about it before I clicked on the free gift, but I see it. He has things unlock your inner healing and boost your business potential. There's the thing on it. I'm just scrolling through the website right now. Change your life in 10 minutes. Are you ready to energize your mind, strengthen your body, and elevate your spirit in minutes? Claim your gift here. So I'm going to go through this website and I'm going to look at this stuff and I'm going to claim the gift, and we'll be back. We'll talk about some more stuff. He has some bullet points here: supercharge your energy, bulletproof immunity, maximize your vitality, sync your heart, brain, gut, chakras, and meridians, more love, less stress, and heal yourself. So if anybody's looking for that, you know, go to the website. It's iampure.energy.com. And this is Mr. Nate, who's here on Ray on Sports, giving insights, you know, from where he came from. And, you know, I can, you know, relate to where he came from, because, you know, and I want to tell you, sir, personally, that, you know, what you said inspired me even more, you know, from where you came from and what you dealt with, you know, to that level. And for those who didn't get all of it, come back and rewatch it or re-listen to it. I'm on Facebook right now live, but I'm also going to be on YouTube live. It'll be repeated on there. If you can't see it there, you can always hear it on your way to work, on your way to wherever you got to go. It's Ray on Sports on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Buzzsprout. Go back and listen to it again. You know, if maybe it's something you missed on there, maybe something you want to hear again. Just go back and listen to it, or also tell your smart speaker to play Ray on Sports episode 25. This is episode, you know, I can't even believe I'm saying this is episode 25. You know, I've been doing this for a while, and thank God that I made it this far, you know, with encouragement, with friends and family behind me, great guests like Mr. Nate here, you know, coming on and giving his experiences, and, you know, people chiming in. our quote's back. He said the awakening transformation.
Yeah.
He said also he has another question. I think he has another one. He says, "Can I get a couple of free copies?"
Well, the gift is free for anyone, Arquil, that would like to go there and actually start to learn this for sure. Yeah, by all means, please spread the word. Let people know I am pure.energy. There's no .com at the end. It's just I am pure.energy. It's one of those new websites. But yeah, absolutely. The free copies for everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your sir being on here. Thank you once again for, taking time out of your busy schedule to come on here. I appreciate it very much. So when I first, saw your video on the site and I was looking at it, I was like, this is going to be very interesting. Oh, he said he's on the site right now. So he's looking at it right now.
Nice. Like
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
This guy, Arquil, I'm sorry. Arquil is a great friend of mine. I've been knowing him for years. God, it's going on like maybe 15, 16 years. And he, he's in, if he asks questions, he's looking into it and he wants to know more about it. And he's gotten me better health wise. He's telling me some things, that I hadn't been doing before. He pushes me and is like, hey, have you done this? Have you done that? Johnny, what are you doing with this? Hey, what you doing? I got you. And I call him Q. I said, I got you, Q. I got you. And he's like, come on, we got to get this together. Cause I don't know if you know, I deal with valley fever, a thing called valley fever. I don't know if it's popular in Utah.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. It's almost like COVID, but it's not contagious like COVID, but it's the exact same symptoms. Yeah, if you Google valley fever, it's usually in Arizona, California, states, places like that, in desert states, and it does with your lungs. It's a disease that affects your lungs, and so
every single person, please pass them along to me, because when it comes down to asthma, COPD, COVID, long COVID, I've never seen anything like this breath work that I'm doing. And the thing is that, so many people take it for granted that they're breathing 29,000 times a day, and it is all good until you can't.
Exactly.
And you know it real fast when you can't breathe. So that is my biggest passion, is helping people to heal their breathing issues.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Nate. Yes, definitely. Thank you, Mr. Nate, for being here. This is Johnny Ray once again for Ray on Sports. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sitting in and taking this ride. Until next time, we'll see you again. Take care and God bless.